Jeannie and I met 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, give or take, just to have an initial discussion about scheduling and issues and so on and so forth. I don't know that we really came up with anything concrete.
No, we talked more about issues than about specific schedule. So we don't have a schedule yet.
Okay, not a problem. Just wanted to check before we went on the record.
I could have just said no, I suppose.
No, but good background information.
Details are always good. Okay, then why don't we go ahead and go on the record and we will get this show on the record. Good morning, this is a pre-hearing conference in CPG NMP 6045, the application of Westman GLC Solar LLC for a certificate of public good pursuant to 30 VSA sections 219A and 248 and Board Rule 5.100 for a 500 kilowatt group net metered photovoltaic electric generation facility in Cambridge, Vermont, and also CPG number NMP 6046, the application of Cambridge GLC Solar LLC for a CPG pursuant to 30 VSA sections 219A and 248 and Board Rule 5.100 for a 500 kilowatt net metered photovoltaic electric generation facility in Cambridge, Vermont. My name is John Gerhard. I'll be the hearing officer for this case. And if we could just go around the room, I'll take appearances, please.
Jeannie Elias for the Department of Public Service.
John Einhorn, Natural Resources Agency.
Roxanne Martin. I'm a local person, a resident of Cambridge.
David Carpenter for the applicant.
Luke Schulenberger, Green Lantern Capital applicant.
And for the record, I believe Ms. Martin filed a motion to intervene in the matter.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Okay, so let me start just by saying, you know, if you looked at the order that was issued in November, you'll recall that there's a single issue that we need to address, and that is the aesthetics criterion under section 248B5. And so we're going to focus our attention on 248B5. Any other issue has either been resolved through the order or is still pending resolution based on the materials that have been filed thus far. So just want everyone to understand that.
I believe, if I can interrupt for a second, William G. Wilbur, who also motioned to intervene,
Yes.
said that he was going to make a conference call into this meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in 1 second, actually.
Oh,
I'll get to
okay.
that right now. Actually, I don't believe Dr. Wilbur was going to call because he filed a motion to withdraw his appearance on Monday or Tuesday, I
Oh.
believe. And there's an order pending on that as we speak, so I don't believe Mr. or Dr. Wilbur is going to be joining us. That's why I didn't set up the
Oh.
conference call. Outside of Dr. Wilbur's motion, I don't think that there are any other motions that are still pending, but I want to check with the parties to make sure that I'm correct on that. I think we have everything that we need to go forward with nothing else needing resolution.
Yeah, if I could,
Please.
the one issue that we did have, and it may be the horse is out of the corral on this, in Ms. Martin's motion to intervene was submitted late. We pointed that out in our initial filing in June 29th. There was no memo from the board instructing us to respond to Ms. Martin's application materials, either on her motion or substantively, which was why we did not respond to them in our motion.
Okay.
So we didn't feel as though we needed to file a motion to oppose that motion to intervene, since it had been filed significantly outside of the time frame. Ms. Martin's not in a butter, so she didn't receive notice, and nor was she required to.
Okay. And are you going to be making any kind of motion in association with that, or are you looking for an opportunity to respond to her motion to intervene now?
I think we would like the opportunity to respond, whether or not we actually submit papers. I just wanted to get the hearing officer's impression as to whether or not that issue had been closed or not. The board had its motion granted the motion to intervene, noting that we didn't file a formal opposition to it. We did we did note that her motion had been filed late in our response, and felt like that was appropriate to do so. There's board precedent where late file applications, late file comments to the cement plant one specifically from September 2015, where there was no motion to oppose file. The board on its own noted that those comments had been filed late and rejected them. So I don't know if I think we'd like the opportunity to, and if we don't avail ourselves of it, then we can just let the board know.
Okay, I will be sure to raise this issue with the board. I can't speak for the board, so I have a little bit in the dark about how they'll want to proceed on that.
Understood. And I understand that it is late, but at this point. And then, sorry, there's just
Nope,
one other issue, which we haven't, excuse me, excuse me, my kids are getting me sick. We haven't filed any formal response to the board's order with regard to the cumulative impacts analysis that is being required. We don't believe that a cumulative impacts analysis is required by the statute or the board rules. And no party has pointed any precedent that would require a cumulative impacts analysis. So we note our objection on the record to being required to undertake a cumulative impacts analysis at this point of any aesthetic requirement.
Okay. Objection is noted. Other parties have anything to weigh in on the topic of cumulative impacts?
Not at this time.
I don't, but I do have another issue that I would like to bring up. The agency.
Just going to ask you to hold for 1 second.
Okay.
So I can
Sure.
check with Ms. Martin. Any thoughts
Well,
on?
can you explain what a cumulative impact is as far as, what you're asking me?
The idea of the cumulative impact is that we have two separate projects, and viewed alone, you would observe their impacts, or you would assess their impacts differently than you would necessarily if you took both of them combined together. And so the idea is whether or not the aesthetic analysis up until this point has considered the combined impact of both projects.
Well, my feeling is that they are a combined project, but that's, and as far as on both sides, I think Mr. Bill Wilbur did work with Luke in the beginning to, remedy some of the impact of the aesthetics. But my feeling is the one field, especially the Westman field, is definitely more visible to the main roads. I did take some pictures and stuff like that I can present. And to me, that is a huge issue as far as the impact on local tourism.
Thank you. Sure. The agency didn't file any comments on aesthetics and does not intend to participate on that issue. We did file some comments relative to buffers for natural resources, which I understand that the petitioners are agreeing to accept. I didn't see any reference made to those in the board's order, so I'm just here today. It's kind of an open-ended issue for me, but my understanding going forward is that if CPGs were to be issued, that those conditions would be included in those, having understanding. Other than that, the agency doesn't intend to participate in any of this going forward.
Just for clarity for you, any issues that weren't specifically brought up in the order, the board, I believe the board considers that it has sufficient information before it right now to make an eventual decision. And I want to say, if I recall, there was a footnote talking about A&R's position and kind of deferring judgment until that final order. But I will make sure that when the board is kind of presented with materials that I'm going to present to them, I'll remind them that A&R's issues need to be addressed in that.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure. Do we have anything else that we need to address in terms of outstanding issues?
No, I don't, but I don't know if it's necessary for the department to state this, but we have retained an aesthetic consultant for this project. Both he and I have independently, I believe I have to, subject to chat, I have reviewed the site, and he is doing so. We haven't had communications with Ms. Martin yet. So that's sort of the position of the department at this point in terms of moving things along.
Okay. Well, since that brings us to the cusp of scheduling, why don't we talk a little bit about that? The connection for me is the consideration of a site visit. Are parties anticipating a site visit? Any positions on whether one is needed, whether one should not be had, should be had?
For the department, I believed it was necessary to understand the site, to go out and visit the site, and I was aware of Ms. Martin's intervention motion, and even without knowing exactly which house was hers at the time I visited the road, I didn't go onto either of the properties. That gave me some good perspective. I think it would be useful for the board to see the site, but I think everybody else in the room has seen the site except for the board's representative. So I don't know if we need to spend the resources of doing an official site visit. I'll leave that to the board to decide whether they think they need that information. Particularly since the site visit is not evidence in the case, but rather contributing to the understanding of the board.
Yeah, I mean, Jeannie, if you're comfortable, and we'd leave that to the board's discretion as to whether they feel a site visit is necessary. There's a lot of photographs in the record. Excuse me. From our perspective, no site visit would be required. We've got a lot of photographs and evidence in the record, but we obviously can't say no. So.
Well,
Refer them to TJ Boyle's analysis, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've got, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've got the initial analysis that went in with the application back in, I guess it was April, then the subsequent filing that went in with additional photographic evidence. And I don't know if you took any photos when you were out there, or.
I did not. Mr. Kane may have.
Right.
I haven't connected back up with him since earlier in the week.
Yeah, and we've got our, TJ Boyle is our aesthetics expert, and the department's got their own aesthetics expert, and we put those two guys in contact with each other. And I'm assuming that Mark will make his site visit if he needs one.
It was his intention to do so Tuesday or Wednesday this week. I just don't know whether he did it or not.
This is now in the record as well.
That is not in the record at this point.
Okay.
Because Jeremy and, so we're discussing something that's not in front of the hearing officer.
That's fine.
Our aesthetics expert, in response to the issues that we put before it with regard to that's the Westman site, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Is in the process of developing draft screening plans, which I think we shared that with you last time we were up here electronically. So that's gone back and forth as well. Roxanne, I don't know if you've gotten a copy of that.
I got a layout.
Okay.
From Luke.
Okay, so again, this is all sort of in the interest of trying to address as many issues as we can without the necessity of going through a full-blown hearing. We're all trying to share as much information as we can.
I'd like to inquire, when were the photographs actually taken that you submitted?
Photographs were taken, I will look. they were taken, I think, during leaf off last
Leaf off conditions.
October.
Okay.
I wanna say, but don't quote me on that, but I can certainly make a note of that and let you know when those were taken.
Because up till maybe second or third week, we still have a lot of, leaves up. It's not until like November when it's completely cleared and it's extremely visible in certain sections. I do have some photographs that I like to present to everyone so that they can see basically it's not just how I feel that this whole thing is going to be impacted and how it's going to affect tourism and the people that come and visit our town in particular, is that this is a well-known road, and it's been written up in various publications and magazines as a very scenic tour. And there are certain areas of Vermont that are considered scenic tours, and this happens to be a very big area for bikers, for antique cars, and so on and so forth, that come into the state and visit. This brings a lot of tourism into our state, a lot of, basically also, as far as the town goes, a lot of people, they have weddings and so on and so forth, they rent their property out, and it's a very big draw, and the view is very, basically kind of almost like a sacred cow to Cambridge. And the reason why I intervened was on this basis. It's not because my view or my cabin oversees this. However, when I drive down the road in certain areas, it's very visible throughout, throughout the area. And my feeling is that the impact on our tourism business could be detrimental to people coming into the Cambridge. Cambridge is known, actually Jeffersonville was actually separated out from Cambridge because I think Thomas Jefferson visited it and just kind of claimed that it was the most beautiful town he ever visited in his life. So they separated that section of Cambridge out, and in his honor they named it Jeffersonville. So, I mean, that's just the historic beauty of the land itself, and that's why I motioned to intervene, was because I thought, I felt that people they didn't realize the impact of what it would have on the area. So I like to hand those out now, if possible, or you can just, prompt me when it's applicable.
Well, what we're really focused on today is just kind of identifying the issues that we're going to discuss in a future technical hearing.
Okay.
And also kind of setting the schedule up. And so what we'll do is we'll once we get that established, the kind of materials that you want to submit are more properly submitted either through as direct pre-file testimony or there will be an opportunity for you to submit them.
Okay, great.
But right now I'm going to ask you to hold on.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Can the hearing officer inquire specifically of Ms. Martin for her position on the site visit, new to the proceedings, not an attorney? I'm hearing what I would anticipate the basis for requesting a site visit from the board, and I don't want that issue to disappear under the table before it gets the light of day. So I just would, on behalf of the public advocate, I'd like to hear.
You're one step ahead of me.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And, Your Honor, could I interrupt really briefly? I just wanted to just direct people to the record as to where the photographs are. They're in Exhibit Cambridge 4, Exhibit Cambridge 4A, and Exhibit Cambridge 8. And those are also similarly numbered for Westman. That'd be West 4, West 4A, and West 8. So those photographs are, and they are all leaf off, as you can see
Oh, okay.
from that. This is our supplemental filing, which you're welcome to have a copy of that. if you
Oh,
like.
thank you.
Sorry to
Can I
interrupt.
take the whole thing?
You take the whole.
Oh, thank you.
and Ms. Martin, following up on the department's note, are you interested in the board having, or in this instance?
Yes,
me having?
definitely.
Okay. What I envisioned in terms of a schedule is what I think is a very light schedule, hopefully. I'm not exactly sure of the site visit yet. I'm going to take into consideration what the parties have said. I'm imagining a schedule that has direct testimony from the parties. In the case of the petitioner, obviously you've already filed testimony. If there's, however you would like to supplement that, I would imagine it coming in through that process. We'd have a brief discovery process, and then that would lead to the technical hearing. So I don't think that this will be, I say this knowing that we now have 2 weeks of holidays in the middle of this, but I don't foresee this being something that takes too much time. But what I'm going to rely on you for is, how much time do you think you need to be reasonable to pull together testimony, to go through the discovery process, and then to get your answers on that discovery? I'm open to suggestions in terms of timing.
A caveat from the department, I have a significant amount of out-of-the-office time planned over the next 45 days. So I'm gone for the week between Christmas and New Year's, and then I'm gone for a week and a half in January. So I can have our expert, who will be, for example, drafting testimony, working during that time if we can coordinate it, but I do have these 24th through 31st of December unavailability and 20th through 31st of January. And I don't want to try to hold things up, but if we can craft a schedule that doesn't have, would potentially have discovery submitted to petitioner on the 20th of January, and then that way you could be working depending on your availability. But
I am happy, and this is up to you. I mean, if you folks would like to take an opportunity after we finish the hearing to throw some dates together and then file something with me in the next couple of days, I can turn something around with relative speed so that we all have at least a schedule in front of us. If we leave it up to me and I pick dates that conflict with your schedule, it's just going to add time to this. So would you be able to pull something together and file it with the board?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so.
Sure.
We don't have, pretty much we've done all of our work. I mean, there's not, the only thing we would have, your expert's gonna have to put an expert report together and provide that to us. And then, I mean, there's not a lot that we need to put in evidence we haven't put in already. So we put our application in April of last year. It'd be nice if we could get this done long before a year expires on it. So we're looking to do this as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can.
Okay.
I'm happy to stay after the pre-hearing conference and work with Ms. Martin and the petitioner to try and come up with a schedule and make sure that Ms. Martin understands the pieces of process that impact how she would introduce her evidence, what the deadlines mean.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Ms. Martin, that works for you as well?
That works for me.
Excellent. What have I forgotten? Anything that's lying out there?
Technical hearing, any restrictions from you, and do you think we need a public hearing on this, or just the technical hearing?
That's something I'll bring up with the board. I'm not exactly sure how they want me to proceed on a public hearing. If we decide to go with a public hearing, it may be that they want to participate, and then we start to think about their schedules.
I did have an analogous net metering project that I believe Jake Marin was the hearing officer on out in Addison, where an adjoiner intervened on aesthetics, and we had a site visit, but not a public hearing, and that was followed by a technical hearing. So I think there is precedent for the schedule and the components that you suggested today, where we just have site visit if parties require, and then go to technical hearing, because it was net metering, and it was net metering on a single issue.
Yeah, we'd object pretty strongly to a public hearing.
Let me just trying to see what my schedule is like. I have scattered hearings throughout the next several weeks into the new year. So the only dates that are completely taboo for me are 21st and 22nd in January. I have some hearings already scheduled, and I think that's it. Are we anticipating January, or
I don't think we can manage January with my schedule. I'm thinking early February would
Okay.
work for me. There's a possibility, but it doesn't, it depends on our discussion.
Okay,
I think we'll just
then
leave
I'm
that.
gonna throw a couple more dates out there that will not work. The 12th, 15th, the 12th and 15th.
We're in February now?
Of February, yeah. I have some conflicts there as well.
I would hope to get to this hearing in the first part of February before then, because I do think we have a single issue and we have only a few procedural pieces we need to put together before we get there, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wide open. Why don't we try to schedule this the first week of February? Can we do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, and this is all subject to what Ms. Hudson tells me is available on our calendar, so.
and I don't have my expert here, so I can't commit to a schedule for a specific date until rounded by Mark.
It's aspirational.
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 Yeah, but then you don't want to ask Mrs. Hudson and then change your mind.
Well,
She's retiring at the end of
Oh, that's right, we'll be asking,
She's asking now.
we don't know,
No, we do.
do we?
Do we not?
I don't know if you know, I'd be interested to hear.
I thought we knew. I
Wow.
thought we knew.
No, I think it's still.
Still up in the air.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find this calendar to see if I can just check that first week of February. I can run up and beg her to save it for us. It's a beautiful thing. It looks empty, so unless she has something sitting, waiting to be scheduled on our calendar on the web, it should look good. So as soon as you have come up with your dates, if you file that with us, and then I'll turn something around ASAP.
Great.
Okay.
Do you, with regard to the cumulative impacts issue, should we, what's the best way to propose, you would propose we file papers on? I don't want to slow the process down by.
I don't want to slow the process down either. Why don't we do that? Why don't we have you file
The letter.
a letter to the board, because this is going to have to be presented to the board as that was part of their order, not part of my role as the hearing officer. And then, once I have that, I can present it to the board and see how they want to move forward. We're at a little bit of a disadvantage because we're shy one board member who's in South Africa. So, but she has been communicating with us, so perhaps we can get that moving quickly too.
Okay. So I'll submit it to the board under both docket numbers.
If you would, please.
Sure.
And just for Ms. Martin, for your benefit, as materials are traded back and forth between the parties, I'm going to ask you if you could make sure that you keep an eye on the service list, and if you're going to be sharing materials, you need to copy everybody on the service list.
Okay.
And you will also be copied by everyone in their filings. That just helps everyone stay on the same page.
Okay, very good.
Do you want, just for her benefit, do you want to run through who that service list is at this point?
I don't have that service list with me right
Okay.
now. So probably what I can do is I can have our clerk send you out a revised and updated service list once I get upstairs.
Okay.
Okay. Any other issues we need to take care of? Okay, then we will adjourn for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.